When Calls the Heart is back. Season 10, Episode 1. Carpe Diem. The show opens up with the townspeople at a swap meet. Rosemary is 3 weeks from giving birth, and Lucas and Elizabeth are planning their wedding. Henry is in jail for blowing up the mine, but he comes and goes as he likes. Nathan told him he didn't have to come to jail. He said, if I want you, I'll come find you. But Henry insists. He just walks in the cell and closes the door. Henry's court date is Friday, and Bill is telling him that it's not a sure thing. There is something to be worried about. But Henry's not bothered, or he's not worried. He says they'll take it as it comes, basically, is what he said. He said he'll be fine. Bill started coughing. Henry said, well, how are you? And he said, I'm fine. And Henry said, well, we'll both be fine. I guess we're both fine then. A Mountie brought Nathan a dog. It's a failed Mountie dog. So I guess it didn't go through Mountie school doing what the dogs do. So they brought him to Nathan, and Nathan doesn't want him. And right away, when the man gave Nathan the leash, the dog ran away, and Nathan had to go get him. Later on, Nathan was looking for the dog, and he walked into his office, and the dog was sitting in the jail. And he told the dog, "Get out of there." And the dog just looked at him. And then when his daughter came in, she said, "We have a dog?" He said, "No, don't get used to it. He has an attitude." And the dog came right out of the cell and went to, what is her name? Allison or? Fiona asked Nathan, did he clear everything up with May? And he said yes. And she asked him, did he clear everything up with Faith? And he just looked. And Fiona said, you can't clear things up with Faith if you don't talk to her. Faith saw Bill walking down the street, and she said, you're back. And he said, yeah. Faith said, the doctor said you didn't show up for your appointment. Bill said, why bother? They all say the same thing. I might be dying. I might live for 10 years. Nobody knows. And she said, well, at least you're exercising, right? Lee and Rosemary need to cut corners so they can hire more people in the town, because a lot of the businesses have closed down. So Lee is trying to, hire some people. He doesn't know if he'll be able to hire them and not have to lay them off later. Right now, he's supposed to get a big job. And if he's able to get the big job, then he'll be okay. But he said he can pay them for at least 2 weeks. And so Rosemary said that she can cut corners. She had some maternity clothes that she ordered, and it didn't come in. So she said she wasn't going to reorder. Elizabeth was walking in while they were talking about that, and she offered to give her maternity clothes. And Rosemary said, oh, thank you. You're whatever it meant, you're sweet. And but she was underwhelmed. Her taste and Elizabeth's taste is totally different. Elizabeth is toned down, and she's turned up in her taste. Later on, Rosemary was feeding Lee dessert. He thought it was cherry pie, but it was prunes and beet juice. And Lee was looking at Elizabeth, and kind of showing an icky face. Elizabeth was bringing over the maternity clothes, and she said, I'll come back in the morning and pick up anything that you don't want. And Rosemary said, I'll be keeping them all. And she thanked her. And when Elizabeth left, she told Lee that, like what I was saying earlier, their tastes are different. Her taste is loud and Elizabeth's taste is subtle. At this point, the baby started kicking, and Rosemary said, "Oh, Lee, the baby's kicking." And so he touched her belly and kissed it. Lucas has a surprise. I'm not sure if the surprise is for Elizabeth. It probably is. It's for Elizabeth, but he's not telling anybody what the surprise is. But he does need Minnie's help. So Minnie agreed to help him with his surprise. Lucas asked Lee to be his best man, and he agreed. Some of the kids are being late for school, and Elizabeth finally got out of Allie what was going on, that there is a lake or a pond where there was not one, and they have been before school and after school and sometimes at recess go and swim in the pond. Elizabeth thanked her for letting her know what was going on, and she went to Bill to tell him that he needs to check it out. And Bill said, you think I need to walk all that way to check out a pond? And she said, yes. He said, have you been talking to Faith? She said, no, a walk will do anybody good. So she said, okay, I'll go with you. I'll meet you in an hour. While Bill and Elizabeth were talking, Bill said, Elizabeth said, you're the mayor. That's the reason why she said he should check out the pond. He's the mayor. And he said, acting mayor. But the last I heard, Mike was the mayor. I don't know. Maybe I missed something when Mike stepped down. Or maybe that was them telling us that Mike stepped down. Lucas's surprise was a community dinner for the town. Elizabeth thanked Lee for agreeing to be Lucas's best man, and Rosemary kicked Lee under the table to remind him to ask Elizabeth who her maid or matron of honor was going to be. And Elizabeth said, Rosemary, of course. And Rosemary told her, you didn't ask me. And so Elizabeth officially asked Rosemary to be her matron of honor. I remember thinking that Carson was going to surprise Faith with the ring that he lost and then he found before he got on the stage. But it's evident now Faith is talking to Fiona and May, and she's saying that there's nothing between her and Nathan, but it's obvious that she wants there to be. She likes Nathan. So I'm guessing we've given up on Carson. That ship has sailed. The show ends with when Elizabeth and Bill went to the pond. The kids were coming to the pond to swim in it. And Bill was talking about shutting the pond down because it wasn't safe. But the kids, they just went right on past them and got in there and was jumping around. And he said, you could drown. The kids said, he said that we're going to close this down. They said, why? And then he said, well, you could drown. And then they stood up and the water was like to their knees. Bill bent down to feel the water and it was warm. And so I'm guessing that when Henry blew up the mine, things shifted and now they have a hot springs and they're talking about making money charging people to come to the stream. Bill is alone, fell backwards into the pond, and that's where it went off. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe.